Hi everybody, my name is David and this is the Cartoon Fortress YouTube channel. I'm so excited to bring you the second episode of the Letterboxd Digest series. This is the episode, of course, for February 2021. For those of you that are new to this channel or maybe new to this series, let me just give a brief explanation on what it is. So the aim here is for me to take 3 films that I've watched over the past month that I've logged on Letterboxd and give you a brief review, just some brief thoughts on the film, and yeah, just kind of let you know what I think. And it's a good way for you to just get a peek at the types of films that I do enjoy watching. Now, if you're not already following me on Letterboxd, please feel free to do so. I can be found at Cartoon Fortress, and I log just about everything that I watch is logged on my account. Every once in a while there's a title that I watch that doesn't get logged for whatever reason. But yeah, most of what I watch is on there. So the 3 films that I have picked for this month, I'm really happy how this ended up because we have films from 3 different decades. So we're going to be talking about the 50s, the 70s, and the 80s. Now we're going to go ahead and start off with the 80s. And this is a film from 1984. This is directed by Robert L. Rosen and is written by Ronnie Cox and Mary Cox. And this is Raw Courage. Now, this particular title comes to us from Scorpion Releasing, which is distributed through Kino Lorber. Now, this came as a recommendation, I believe it was from Brian Sauer of Just the Discs. And I added it to my cart, and then during one of the many Kino Lorber sales that they have, I made the purchase and got this and added this to the collection. And I'm really glad that I did. Now, what we have here is not an A+, 5-star, perfect movie. This is, in a lot of regards, a cheesy 80s movie, and I'm absolutely fine with that. I really enjoyed watching this movie. Now we have a cast here. The main characters we have here are Ronnie Cox, Art Hindle, M. Emmett Walsh, and William Russ. Now, being from 1984 and starring M. Emmett Walsh, I immediately was comparing kind of his performance here to his performance in Blood Simple, which came out the same year, from the Coen brothers, and which is one of my favorite films of all time, and one in which M. Emmett Walsh gives an amazing performance. I can't say that his performance is up to par in this film in regards to kind of comparison to Blood Simple, but that's kind of beside the point because this is its own movie, and I want to just kind of judge it based on its own merit. So just to give you a brief synopsis here, a 72-mile marathon to glory in New Mexico by Pete Canfield, played by Ronnie Cox, Roger Bauer, played by Art Hindle, and Craig Jensen, played by Tim Mayer, turns into a nightmarish fight for survival when the 3 men are tracked and hunted by a federal band of commandos armed with full weaponry and motorcycles. Led by Colonel Krause, played by M. Emmett Walsh, the renegade group maneuvers to kill their 2-legged prey. So these 3 guys are going on a marathon run in the desert, and I have to say I love the locale here of the desert. I love films that are shot in the desert. I live in the desert. I live in Arizona, and so I'm kind of partial to this type of terrain, but I'm really drawn to films that are made in the desert, and I love the location here. You do feel a lot of the sense of isolation, of desperation in this particular film because it does get very intense, and the locale serves a really big purpose in kind of driving the story forward, and what happens to our main characters, our main protagonists here. And the group that is led by Emmett Walsh, they're kind of this rogue. They're not like an official military group. They're kind of a doomsday prepper, kind of end of the world type group is what I got the kind of the idea that I got. And yeah, Emmett Walsh is their leader. So going back to my thoughts on his performance, it was a little bit of a caricature, if you will. It was kind of the I'm the military leader man, and everybody do what I say, kind of a performance. And I didn't really buy into I really didn't buy into that very much, but it serves enough of a purpose here that it kind of fills in that character need, I guess, for this particular film and for the story that we're being told here. Now, William Russ is one of the antagonists, and it's funny because I remember him, really the only thing that I remember him from is Boy Meets World, which is a TV show that I grew up on. He plays Mr. Matthews, Corey's dad, the main family in the TV show. And so it was funny to see him in this kind of bad guy role, and he really is. It's choices that his character makes that really flips the story on its head. And so these guys are on their marathon run. They're kind of minding their own business, and then they run into this renegade, this group, and it all goes south from there. So this quickly becomes a story of survival, and at one point too, kind of a story of revenge a little bit, with just things that happen. But I don't want to get too much into that part of the story, because then there are spoilers for sure that will be uncovered. So we'll kind of stay away from that. But I really I found the tension to be pretty good throughout the film. And then the ending, the third act, it gets a little bit cheesy with some of the story elements, and kind of how maybe the escape of the characters at the end gets a little bit it's maybe not so believable. But overall, though, with it being kind of just the story of survival and that type of thing, it worked well for me. And again, the location and even some of the interaction between the characters and kind of how they maneuver their way through different situations, I think it worked well, and it was an enjoyable film. But this is far from being a perfect movie, but it's one that I will definitely revisit. In fact, I just saw it this month, and I was feeling like I might even be in the mood to watch this again. So this is a first-time watch for me. This is not one that I had seen before that was a repeat watch. And I've even thought that it might be enjoyable to go back and watch again and see how I feel on a second viewing, see if there's anything that I missed that I didn't pick up on my first viewing. But really, you get what you get with this movie. It's not not something that you should expect Academy Award performances out of, but just a very enjoyable 80s movie. And I'm just kind of blabbing on at this point, so I'll just kind of end it there. But if you're looking for a great 80s movie, this will definitely fit the bill for that. So this is Raw Courage. Now, this specific disc, again from Scorpion Releasing, has a new on-camera interview with writer, producer, star Ronnie Cox, brand new 2019 2K master, and a theatrical trailer. Now, I will say on this particular release that the audio presentation is a about the worst that I've heard in quite some time. It's very scratchy audio, and it kind of hits. It's kind of hit and miss all throughout. So that's something that kind of takes you out of it a little bit, is just the bad audio presentation here. And I'm assuming you work with the elements that you have, and there obviously just wasn't a great audio track that they were working with here. So maybe at some point we'll get a remastered edition and get better audio. But for now, this is what we have, and it's just unfortunately part of the experience with this particular disc. All right, so let's move on to the 1970s. So this is from, and I should say with excuse me, that's the next movie. With Raw Courage, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. So just to give you an idea of what I thought of that overall. Next up, I said the title, or started to say the title a second ago here. This is from 1977 and is directed by John Flynn, and was written, now there's a story, and the screenplay was written by Paul Schrader. I had no idea, up until I was preparing for this episode, I had no idea that Paul Schrader was the writing force behind this film, but that's really cool to know. And this stars William Devane, Tommy Lee Jones, and Linda Haynes. And this is Rolling Thunder. So the synopsis on this: when Charles Rain, played by William Devane, returns home to San Antonio, Texas, he is given a hero's welcome. He and his friends, John Vogden, played by Tommy Lee Jones, had endured 8 years of physical and mental in a POW camp. So this is a really multi-layered kind of film. And first and foremost, it's a commentary, or can serve as a commentary on PTSD, and that's really kind of the main focus with our main character, or couple of characters. Tommy Lee Jones is definitely more of a side character, where William Devane, it's really focused on him and his reintegration into society, if you will, coming back from having been in the war, and just trying to kind of find his footing. He has a son that was just, I believe he was just a few months old, maybe, when he left, and so he comes back, and he is no longer a baby, obviously, and his wife, trying to reintegrate with those relationships, get to know his son, and you can tell that there's something really off. He's just mentally does not seem present. He seems very just emotionally kind of tuned out, and so very quickly things kind of go south, and his relationship with his wife and son is kind of put on the rocks a bit. And in one of the public presentations, when he comes back, he's gifted a certain amount of money, and I can't remember the exact amount that he's given, but there's a group of guys that come after him, and they come after the money, and things go from bad to worse, and this becomes 100% a film of revenge. And that's how I would, I guess, categorize this. Would be a revenge film, but it's dealing with those issues of definite PTSD and that type of thing. And there's really engaging human relationships, and that's kind of a big focus here as well, is just human relationships and kind of navigating change maybe within those relationships. And then the story really does take a strong left turn, and then the revenge plot really comes to the forefront. And the only thing, so there's certain moments and certain events in this film that William Devane's performance leaves me maybe wanting a little bit more. I understand what his character is dealing with, and kind of the writing here, kind of the direction that Paul Schrader takes this in his writing. But he seems a little bit too stone cold, I guess, with some of the events that happen, and something too. I mean, I'm not. There's no way for me to say, oh, I would have reacted this way or a specific way, because I haven't been through anything even remotely close to what this character has gone through. So it's kind of hard to say or to criticize maybe how he was emotionally, but there were just certain points and certain events that happen, and there's just absolutely no emotion. And I would think maybe that there would be a little bit more something there, but with the bigger issues that we're dealing with here, like with PTSD and things like that, there's a lot of layers involved with someone going through things like that. So it's probably not fair for me to even say anything about how I would react in these given situations. But the progression through the film, as it kind of changes tempo, and the stakes are really high. I mean, we know what he's fighting for, and in the third act, everything culminates to this final act, this final showdown, and it's really violent. It's definitely a disclaimer that I would give if this is one that you're interested in watching, is it does definitely get more violent, and the final showdown is at a whorehouse in Texas, and it's pretty explosive. I mean, it's Tommy Lee Jones and William Devane. Their characters meet up. They come back from the war together, and they go and we'll say take care of business. And it's quite the ending to the film. But overall, this is another one that I gave, just like Raw Courage, I gave this 3 out of 5. Definitely not my favorite movie of the 70s, or one that I'm just absolutely crazy about, but it's definitely one that I would revisit, and I do plan on revisiting at some point. Now, the special features on this disc from or I shouldn't say Scream Factory, it's actually just Shout Factory. We do get interviews with actors William Devane and Tommy Lee Jones, and writers Paul Schrader and Haywood Gould. And we also get an original theatrical trailer and a TV spot. So a serviceable release here from Shout Factory, and definitely a film I would say is worth checking out for sure. A good product from the 80s, not what I would call a fantastic film. All right, and moving on to our third and final film. So first I want to show the box set here. So this is the Columbia Noir #2 box set, and there was a film in the 6 that are included in here that really kind of stood out among the rest. And for me, that film is 7-Eleven Ocean Drive. All right, so this film is from 1950, and this is directed by Joseph H. Newman and was written by Richard English and Francis Swan, and stars Edmund O'Brien, Joanne Drew, Otto Kruger, Barry Kelly, and Dorothy Patrick. And just to give a brief synopsis on this, an electronics expert creates a huge bookie broadcast system for his crime boss and takes over operations when his boss is murdered. His greed leads him on a deadly and destructive path. So the main character here is played by Edmund O'Brien, and I really love how they marketed this film. So it's marketed as having been, as you can see here on the cover, filmed under police protection. I love how they used to market films like this because it really kind of sensationalizes the settings or kind of the climate surrounding them being able to make films. And in this case, we're getting a look at the kind of the criminal underworld, and allegedly, apparently, according to how they marketed this film, they had to have police protection because some of the crime bosses and things like that didn't want information that they were producing on film to get out to the main public. So how much there actually is to that or not, I don't know. But it makes for effective marketing for a film, that's for sure. So Edmund O'Brien, he is the lead, and so he works for he works as an electronics expert for a telephone company, and he's just kind of scratching by. We get the idea that he's just kind of making it, and he puts in kind of small dollar bets, and his bookie gives him a tip that, hey, you should take kind of your understanding of electronics and these types of things and come work for this guy. And so he introduces him to his boss, and he quickly finds a job, and he becomes he offers up his electronics expertise and creates this bookie broadcast system, just a system of communication and that starts to bring in considerably more profits than they had before. And so he quickly realizes the value that he brings to this business, and his ego really starts to take over. And so there's a string of events that, as it says in the synopsis here, his boss, the main crime boss, is taken out, and so he at that point takes over, and his ego goes from about a 5 out of 10 to an 11 or 12 out of 10. I mean, it's on high alert, and he starts to think that he's the biggest man in town, and so he's out west, and so names out east, they start to catch wind of what's going on, and so they come out west, and they want to basically join forces and then take him under their wing and offer protections that they can offer, and things really spiral out of control. And that's as far as I'll take the kind of thoughts on the film itself. But there's really great performances all around, but especially with Edmund O'Brien. But he's got a great supporting cast with Joanne Drew and Otto Kruger, Barry Kelly and Dorothy Patrick, like I mentioned before. And this is one of the better noir films I've seen. I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was pretty close to perfect for me in terms of a film noir and kind of different beats that a film noir title that I like to see those types of films hit. This really hits just about on all cylinders, with the dialogue and just kind of the style, the swag of film noir. It has film noir titles have this certain level of elegance to them, grittiness, the relationships, the dialogue, it's really all here. And one thing that really stood out on this one, I loved the third act, where the final. I know I said this about the last film, but like kind of the final showdown, where that happens is actually at the Hoover Dam, and so this is another one that was filmed close to home for me, or at least in part. Was filmed on the Arizona-Nevada border at the Hoover Dam, and that was a really interesting location and a really engaging location to shoot kind of the final part of this movie. And I won't go into anything else on that because I want you to definitely experience it for yourself. But I loved that final, the setting of those final scenes in the movie. And what I like about this movie is that it does kind of have a dual nature. So we get kind of a part police procedural and then part underworld crime film. And the underworld crime, or kind of the crime aspect, definitely outweighs the police procedural and kind of that end of it. But I like the dual nature of having kind of both aspects at play. But yeah, in terms of film noir, this one really hits all those angles that you're kind of looking for when you're watching that type of film. So again, for me, this was a 4.5 out of 5. Really, I almost feel like I could have just gone 5 out of 5 on this one, but this one comes highly, highly recommended and is easily my favorite of the 3 films that I'm reviewing right now for you. But that does it. That is, those are the 3 films that I wanted to talk a little bit more about that I've watched over the past month. Let me know in the comments what you've watched over the last month. Are there any movies that you watched and can't stop thinking about? Are there some real duds that you watched over the last month? Let me know what your experience has been. And again, if you're not already following me on Letterboxd, I can be found at Cartoon Fortress. And if you like this type of content, if you like film unboxings and discussing film like we are here, if you like collector's books, I collect a lot of film books and even other subjects, but just kind of collector's books. If you like that type of thing, I invite you to hit the subscribe button, also the like button, and finally the bell icon, because that will notify you when I upload videos in the future. And until next time, my name is David, and I hope you have a great day.